Hello everyone, and welcome back to Elden Ring, where sometimes you invade in an area where you question whether or not the developers should have included it in the pool altogether. So today I want to be talking a little bit about what makes builds memorable and how it's unique in for invaders, and whether or not you like how much effort necessarily needs to go into like the creativity of making something memorable. Now, I've talked before about Elden Ring invasions being incredibly lethal. Um, it is very easy to blender someone and get blendered in this game and just have your HP pool entirely deleted. Um, so sometimes it is a lot less frustrating to run a build that has a little bit higher of a power level. I'm not necessarily talking like competitive dueling builds, but something that isn't necessarily like a cosplay or has a broader theme that allows you to have a wide toolkit. And part of me just got to thinking, even in these builds, especially if you look at all the different variety of invasions, add some commentary to it, or depending on the creators of music, you can still get a lot of really unique experiences in the game's life cycle. Like, I don't see a lot of Dragon Claw turn and burns on hosts because where I know that they're going to commit to a bad trade based off of previous reads. So I'm part of it is just feeling like with that, I think and I guess the comparison I'm going for is if you ask three painters that are like, let's say, realist painters to paint a particular landscape, let's just say a beach somewhere. Depending on you can you if assuming skilled artists, you would very much be able to recognize that beach. And here, I have never really used Stone of Garank that much, but I am so happy that it is in my toolkit to be able, for that moment, to burst through the Roar of Regalia spam. But, so, you would probably be able to recognize what beach it was, or if it wasn't immediately obvious, if it was like a little bit more of a general landscape, you would, like, if you had a photo of the place from a similar angle, would go, yeah, that makes sense. But where each one would have a unique style is like, what viewpoint are they painting from? What time of day are they painting from? In what weather are they going with? You might have one paint like an evening sunset picture. You might have one paint sunrise or midday, or you could have one paint at night, all with different views of the landscape, and all of that could each result in some very cool and unique paintings, even though they are all painting the same thing. And with, I think part of the magic that keeps Elden Ring very replayable and feeling unique is kind of applying that similar idea to builds. Like if you're running a 40 strength build, sure the stats probably look really similar to other invaders running that, or co-opers or everything else, but your armor, your bag of tricks, your choice, especially like with all of the Ashes of War choices, all of your things really allow you to make your own flavor of that particular build. Um, so, and I think that subtlety is really cool, and that all that can be done and making things unique. Like they'll show up later, but there's a co-invader that I get, and I think recognized um, they recognized my profile from invasions that I did a year ago where I was doing April Frog, where again it was like same stats as the strength build that I'm running in this video, but I was just like poised up wearing a frog hat and with a silly name and was doing some Taunter's Tongue is like a little bit of a joke run to just be like, haha, April Fools, I'm not invading. I'm I'm being invaded. So, and so you can still make some really memorable things without, um, I guess like, without having something necessarily be like a without having the risk of having a really low power build. Because part of all of this is just like having fun, and if your build isn't able to function, that's generally not a very fun thing. So, like, if you're not feeling competitive but still want to be creative, like, you can broaden the scope of a particular build, and I would say like don't worry about it. You can still have a lot of fun, and I would say not fuel the invaders using overpowered stuff, because there are other times where you can even make smart plays, but the game decides that you're just going to get grabbed by an omen and blasted onto your ass because why? So there is so much crazy stuff that can happen, so many different things you can do, and also just so many different fight scenarios that sometimes it's just fun to use what feels good and what works. Because I think part of what inspired me just like thinking about this is like I saw a different Souls creator just like post on YouTube doing like a poll about what the most powerful not cheese weapons in PvP are, and they're just like the lance was on there, and I was just surprised because you don't see just like the generic lance that often, and I'm not even sure what it would run. Like for a little while there was like power stance lances, there was like power stance pikes, power stance Moog spear, so there was some different stuff that you could be like, there was some stuff going, but I just an individual two-handed lance, I wasn't ever thinking it was like, wow, this is the most powerful thing. It just felt like it clicked and resonated really well with how I fight, because my first FromSoft game was Dark Souls 2. The lance being a bit slower of a weapon felt like the hide spear or Dark Souls 2, or like a Dark Souls 2 weapon, doing lots of poise damage, decent damage, and okay speed. So like with all of that, um, was I ever thinking it was top tier? Not really, but I certainly felt good using it, and I thought I was using it creatively, especially with Golden Land as my Ash of War. That is generally, I would say, like a trick up my sleeve, because I don't think a lot of co-opers are expecting it, and I love that I can use it for forcing bad trades. So I don't know. I think it's a interesting thing to discuss, because where there's clearly still a good, at least it feels like to me that there's a good amount of activity left, and and with all of the different combinations, there's still a lot left to potentially just like discover in terms of what can be useful stuff and what can be useful scenarios. And there's a whole lot of pictures to paint, especially when you incorporate level design, level knowledge, like luring these guys over here into going for a bringing a royal revenant in, probably one of the most difficult generic enemies to fight in the entire game. And these guys also knowing to use heal spells to try and fight it off is just, there's just so much going on here. Um, so there's just, I don't know, there's a ton of cool stuff, and I think you can do a lot to make fights and builds, because like memorable and creative are not necessarily synonyms. However, you can do a lot of creative and memorable stuff, even if something I would say is a little bit more routine. And sometimes you just gotta do what works, because like with how slowly you move in this sludge, like, am I spamming flame strike here? Absolutely. Am I moving forward faster and more safely by spamming flame strike than I would either trying to roll or trying to backstep or even just like sprint hobble through this sludge? Yes. L2 spam somehow is making better progress forward than, and it's making the safest, fastest forward movement through this sludge, which is very interesting in itself, even though it, like, something to me that looks generic, really, I feel like is like, alright, this is the safest, most intelligent option that I could be doing at this time. And then also with the other, with all the different arenas for these types of fights, like doing a quick survey, being like, alright, space parasite's still there, the rocks can hit me, but I'm at least not gonna get targeted, and I can do my best to keep these guys like pinned down behind the structures. Yeah, just lots of fun, and honestly, like, that's probably the most important thing. So I think I might have been, esoteric's probably the wrong word for it, and someone could probably argue, Mithril, you're just trying to make yourself feel better about running your workhorse builds instead of coming up with a more creative, unique build that hasn't been done before. And sure, yes, I might be trying to justify a little bit to myself that sometimes you just like running something a little bit more generic that just feels good to use, and I'm still making some memorable fights out of it. I guess to get into the mechanics again, so the strength build that you're seeing is the level 94 weapon upgrade, level 22 regular, 9 somber. Again, just decent poise, overall good damage and stamina, lots of weapon variability that can be used, and and especially I think with Elden Ring, with how much menuing is a part of like, you don't have to menu, you can very clearly just use your soft swaps and do some other things, but my goodness, having menuing and having like all the different access to your setup is like, it is crazy looking at just like the different subtle pieces of everyone's style once they, I guess, get to like this relative, once you can really say that they've got like a workhorse build that is like, again, not necessarily like meta tournament optimized, but just really strong through a bunch of refinement. Because I think that's one of the things of like, there are really strong builds that feel generic and repetitive because they, and this was the person that I think had recognized me from before, and they just tore it up with lightning thrusting sword. Like like they're running some very efficient stuff, and they swapped to the frog helmet. So I'm thinking is where they recognized. And this duo was just running Tanner's Tongue through Noxtella, so good for them. It was lots of good fun fighting them. Um, yeah, I think that there's definitely a lot goes. So I think when setups feel bland is when it is when a setup just feels like copied from a list or from what someone else without it doesn't have the pilot of the build's unique um, bag of tricks. Um, and boy, that collapsing stars could have wrecked me a lot better, and I think probably a smarter play would have been waiting for my co-invader to get a little bit closer, but knowing that they helped me out before and that I can stall a little bit with AoE, I jump down so that way we can both much more directly get into the fight. And also, I have not seen Frost Chilling Mist Knight Rider flail in a while, and that's a really unique thing too, of just like it again of things strong. There's a lot of really strong unique stuff, viable unique stuff in the game that you don't necessarily see all the time, and it's really cool that a lot of the stuff is coming out in the current era of the game. But yeah, so I think as I was saying, when things start feeling bland, I think a lot of it is when it just feels copied from somewhere, and it isn't like you're missing the creator and pilot's unique tricks. Like again, like using myself specifically is like hand ballista is my choice range weapon. I use hand axe is my weapon of choice for endure, and generally I have some type of silly soft swap setup with spell utility and or a shield, and like there's a lot of things here, and that, although technically we're registered as enemies, so it didn't work, I do appreciate them trying to give me the barrier. So, like, all of those things make it, because, like, I know that my co-invader, like, they're absolutely running something efficient, but with how well, like, their team, like, with how well, like, we teamwork, and that we are just like cooperating well, and from their movement, and just like even if it's just like some weapon wails and saying hi in personality, like it doesn't feel like a copied meta build. It's definitely strong, it's definitely efficient, but it certainly is something I would say that falls into the memorable side versus the bland Um, yeah, and as we go into the last little segment here, hopefully some of that made sense and helps you as well as myself not feel bad about just using some strong stuff, because my goodness is it easy to die in Elden Ring. It's easy to die in all the From Software titles, but my goodness, Elden Ring makes it really easy to die. And also, as you can see here, Holy Ground. The Fire Prelate is getting healed and gets a defense buff by standing in the little Holy Ground area. So, again, unique trick that I don't think people see that often, but it's in my toolkit. So again, thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoy it. You enjoyed the invasions. The second build that I was showcasing was level 87 arcane build, and I'll probably be talking about that one soon in a future video. So all of you, take care, be well, have fun, and hopefully I will catch you again soon in another video. Again, enjoy the enjoy the carnage. See ya.